Hey, I'm April.
I'm Bayleigh, and this is the Nestled Podcast.
Here we chat about how to help design meet purpose. Our hope is that you will find inspiration to live more intentionally.
So join us each week as we let you peek in our nest.
And as always, the door will be open.
Hello. Hey everybody, welcome back.
I'm April.
And I'm Bayleigh, and this is the Nestled Podcast.
We're so glad that you are here today, and we hope that you guys are in the groove, getting your new year going.
Let me say something. Me and April, for the last year and a half, have tried to talk to everybody about purging their stuff and simplifying and how much better your life will be and your house will feel. And Netflix puts out a Marie Kondo show.
And now everybody's on board.
And now suddenly it's the cool thing to organize and to clean out your house.
Well, apparently what we were missing is that we weren't saying, does it spark joy?
But you know what? We have said not those words, but only keep what you love.
Yes.
We say that. Does it make you happy is basically the same thing. And we say that, like, just keep the things that you like, especially in decor.
Yes. But in all things.
In all things.
So maybe we're ahead of Marie Kondo.
Yeah, right.
We're not near as bubbly.
No, that's for sure. Or as neat. Her clothing, like every episode I would say to Justin, how do her clothes look so neat?
Yes. How did her seatbelt not wrinkle her shirt?
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Does she sit in a little bubble in the car? Because that's what I imagine.
Yeah.
Is her like in a little padded thing in the back of the car, like meditating the whole way there.
Can you imagine being her kids? Mine would never survive.
Oh, geez.
They would never survive.
Okay, so we've been organizing, though.
Yes,
and we've been purging. But, you know, guys, we do this multiple times a year.
We do, and there's always more to get rid of. It's shocking.
Yeah.
It is shocking. And so I have multiple times talked on this show that I, Bayleigh, struggle with keeping a consistently clean house. I can't imagine if I didn't do these purges what it would be like.
Right.
I mean, it would be really bad. But if that's you and you have what our friend Dana White refers to as slob vision, where you don't see how bad it is till it's really bad, go back and listen to her episode.
Yes.
Because these Marie Kondo methods can be great to purge, although I think if you've never done it and you have too much stuff, it's going to be overwhelming, and some people are going to get stuck with, like, 700 pieces of clothing in their living room.
Right. Well, and the other part of it that I always think as I've watched the show is these people are dedicating, like, days.
Yes, months.
And months.
Yeah.
And so for those of us who are like, I got a couple hours on a Saturday, it may not be possible to get every item of clothing in my entire house out onto the bed because I got to go to sleep tonight.
I'm glad you said that because truly, if you watch the show, even just the clothing thing, it'll come back and it's like day 12. Right. It wasn't the next day she came back and all their clothes were gone through. And these people probably weren't even working while they were filming.
At least for part of it.
Yeah. And so just keep that in mind, but go listen to her episode and find Dana on Instagram. She's at A Slob Comes Clean because she has some really great tips that will help you, like, be consistent and keep up with it.
And tips for the person that organizing and purging is not natural to.
Yeah.
And also, I would just like to say that I cannot get my children to wash, dry, fold any clothes.
Right.
And they're definitely not origamiing anything. I mean, that is some intense folding.
Uh-huh.
So I would just like to say that I cleaned out their drawers and they're nice and folded for like a day, you know?
Yeah. I origamied I'll say it, like, I origamied every piece of clothing in all of our drawers. And they do look fabulous, but, like, it's still the school week and I just did my kids on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not going to last. I know it's not going to last.
Our friend Casey was talking about how Blake, her husband, origamied his shirts and he could fit so many that he didn't have to get rid of a lot, and it broke his drawer because it was so heavy in the drawer because he was able to fit like 50 shirts.
You can fit so many.
I just know realistically, I'm not going to be able to keep up with that because our laundry, y'all, it's real intense. And so I need my clothes to fit if they're just like fresh out of the dryer and crammed in the drawer.
Right.
So we need to get rid of enough till it's that point.
Yeah. I found that like in my pants drawer, things kept falling over because I have so few. So
yeah.
Anyway, all that to say, good job. Keep up the great work. Here's our warning. That is not sustainable for everyone. So go ahead while everything is cleaned out and figure out your step-by-step process for how you're going to keep it up.
Yes.
And how you're going to keep getting rid of stuff as you go.
Yeah. And figure out what works for you because it's not all the same.
Right. Yeah, whenever I found Dana at A Slab Comes Clean, I heard her talking, and for the first time I felt like, I'm not a horrible person who can't keep a house. There are other, well, maybe I am, but there are other people like me.
There are other people who are the same. So there are ways for all of us to do our best.
Right, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to look the same as what someone else tells us is their best.
Right. Speaking of not all looking the same, how's that for a segue? Today on our podcast, you're going to get to hear from Lisa Leonard, and we kind of feel like she needs no introduction. Most of you know Lisa Leonard, and if you don't, we're going to make your day because she is awesome.
You're going to love Lisa.
You're gonna want to go and buy all of her jewelry that she designed.
She's so great.
You're going to want to read every one of her blog posts. You're going to want to read her book, Brave Love, that's coming out. But today, she shares with us a little bit into her story of being a mom of a child with special needs and opened up to us about ways that we can all love on families who also have someone with special needs. And I was able to share a little bit in that conversation about that as well. And so
without further ado,
here's Lisa.
Today we're so excited to have with us Lisa Leonard. We have followed Lisa for a while in her jewelry business, and she is getting ready to launch her brand new book, Brave Love. So thank you for joining us today, Lisa.
Hello, you guys. It's so good to be here.
Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Yes, so I'm Lisa Leonard, and I'm married to Stephen. And we have two boys, David and Matthias. David is 16 and was born with a genetic disorder called Cornelia de Lange syndrome. And Matthias is 15. And then my husband and I own some businesses together. We have Lisa Leonard Designs, which is jewelry and gifts. And then my husband has a brand as well called Stephen David Leonard, where he does men's bags and things like that, and jewelry as well.
I love that he started his own line too. The older that we're getting, the more I see my husband's creativity come out. And I don't know, I think so many men stifle that.
Yeah, it's been so amazing. And it's really gotten great traction, and he is super creative. Like, I love his designs, and it's fun for him to be on the other side because he's, run our business, and we've done so much visioning and building together. And so for him to be on the designing side is really fun.
That is really cool. As you were saying that, I was thinking about my son Titus, who he always wants jewelry for a gift.
He does.
And I was thinking he should do a boys line of cool jewelry. There's not a lot out there for boys.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That is a really great idea.
Look, we are filled with ideas.
Yeah, we're idea people. So, yeah.
Give me all your ideas.
And I'll go ahead and say up front that Miller is with us for now until my sister gets here. So if y'all hear chatting, she's trying to be
Hi,
on her best
Miller.
behavior. But
Yes, everyone knows Miller loves the podcast. So
She is so cute. I'm so glad she's here.
we birthed the podcast on my maternity leave with her. So she's literally been around from the very beginning.
yes.
I love it. 2 babies.
2 babies, that's
Yes.
right. Because one wasn't enough.
Okay, so Lisa, would you just give us a brief overview of your book? Bayleigh and I got the advanced copy through your launch team, and we have loved getting to follow your story, and it's somewhat a memoir of your life.
Mhm.
And would you just share briefly what inspired you to write Brave Love?
Yeah, so my short version is I talk about the birth of our boys, including David's birth with having a syndrome, and then the birth of our business, and then the rebirth of our marriage, because we went through a marriage crisis a couple years ago. And writing the book, I really wanted to write a book that I would want to read. I'm like, tell me your real story. I love memoirs. I love biographies and autobiographies. And I'm like, I want to know the truth. Like, what did you really think? And what did you really feel? And so, as terrifying as it was and is, I really wanted to just write the truth of our journey and my story. So and I really think that's kind of brave love, is being who we are and stepping in and saying, this is me. Like, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to show you who I really am.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that we always talk about on this podcast, is being vulnerable with other people and like making a safe place where other people can be who they are and tell their stories. And I thought that your book did such a great job at that.
Thank you. That's exactly how I feel.
The things that we kind of journeyed through with you in the book was David's diagnosis. And with that, from our perspective of creating community, creating a place of vulnerability for people, and us saying, how can we love people? I know everyone's story is different, but in that, how could the people around you, how did they and how could they have loved you well through that?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. When David was born, I'd already taught special education, so I had a lot of experience with special needs kids. I think his deformity, having only 2 fingers on his left hand, was the most kind of disturbing thing as a mom. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like, we can work on feeding, we can work on speech. There's things we can work on, but like, you can't change a physical difference like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, are people going to alienate us? Are our friends going to feel uncomfortable? And pretty quickly I was like, you know what? I don't want to hide this. Mm-hmm. Like, when people come to visit us in the hospital, I want to show them, like, here's his little hand, mm-hmm. and just acknowledge it right away. Like, I'm not ashamed of David. I'm not going to try to like hide things that I don't, that are scary or hard. So I think that felt like a big burden for us to have to carry, to like, okay, we're going to have to show people and we're going to have to break the ice there, no matter how they react. And then on the flip side, I can't even begin to tell you how gracious and loving people are, and how, it has been so few times that we've had difficult interactions, and just thousands and thousands of amazingly positive interactions, and people just loving David and coming alongside us. And so I would say when David was born, we got so many letters in the mail, just cards saying, we love you, we love David, he's not a mistake, he's precious, from people we didn't know. It was like we were in crisis and we were just kind of going hour by hour. And then we'd come home from the NICU in the evening and check the mailbox, and we'd have 20 cards. Mm. And we'd sit down and just read like verses and notes, and people pouring out love on us. Our church family brought us meals for 3 months, which was like insane. So I think pain is really isolating and lonely, and just acknowledging someone's pain can be so, it just gives this like little bit of hope and buoyancy. Like, I'm not alone. People, mm-hmm. and what I feel is real, and people can see me, I'm not disappearing. And then just, spend time with us, be with us. We had friends who cried with us, who just said like, this sucks. And they didn't try to make it less or explain it away. Like, they just were with us, like, mm-hmm. sat and cried with us. And then practically, like, as David's gotten older, I think like years ago, probably like, 7 years ago, we went to a birthday party, and there was a little girl there who had such a tender heart, and she saw David and she burst into tears. And she was just like, is he hurting? Is he sad? And his mom was like, she's fine. He's fine. He's not hurting. He just has a small hand. And she was just crying and crying. And her mom said, I think I'm just going to take her and leave. And I said, please don't, because I don't want her to think that there's something to be afraid of, or that if you feel sad or scared, you should leave. If you can, I hope you'll stay and just continue to comfort her. And we're super open if you want to ask questions. So I think that openness and trying, and she did, like, they stayed, and 20 minutes later she was calm and having a great time. So I think the more we can like engage honestly and encourage our kids, like, yeah, it's it's hard, it's different, we're not sure what to think about it, but David is great, and let's ask questions, let's be brave and engage. And when people make eye contact with us, people stare because he has a physical difference. But when people make eye contact or ask how old he is, that's so connecting. So I really recommend, when you can, like, smile, engage, instead of kind of like, well, let's not make them feel awkward, or let's just look away, or let's move our kids away so they don't ask an embarrassing question.
Our family, we have a daughter who has dwarfism, and we can relate in that way. I mean, I don't notice the stares as much anymore, just because we're just like eating at Chick-fil-A or whatever.
Right.
But whenever I find myself sometimes walking like 10 feet back for whatever reason, and then I can see it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people just are watching, But you're right. When they look and they smile and you smile back, and it's like, we're more alike than different.
Yes, we are. I think that people who have any kind of difference remind us of our humanity, and that we're all bodies that are imperfect, and it's real. There's a genuine curiosity, and there is a little fear there that's like, what if I had a child with special needs, or what if I got sick, and lost my hair, if I had cancer, whatever it is. It's like there's that twinge of humanity that's hard and real, but what it is, people, like, we've got to engage and be brave. And I can't believe how many people are just so wonderfully engaging and gracious.
I agree. It definitely, the good outweighs the bad as far as people are concerned, I think. One thing that you said in regards to his diagnosis is that you were grieving. And like, let people walk into the pain with you. And as I was reading your book, I was so glad as I read that chapter, because I thought, so many parents who are in this position, whether it's the same syndrome David has, or it's dwarfism or whatever, they go online and they're looking for other families who have a child who's similar to theirs, and they're seeing like these inspirational happy posts. And I think that it puts a lot of guilt on them of like, well, then why am I so sad?
Right.
Why is this so hard?
Why does this feel like loss?
Yeah. And there is this time, I think, of grieving the child who you thought you were going to have. Our family, it was a little different because we adopted our daughter. So we knew up front, and that's what I always tell people. Like, I can't give you advice on how to handle a diagnosis because our story is just different. But I thought as I read that, I'm going to start passing this book on to so many people who are in that place of, I'm just hurting for a minute. And, like, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we put a lot of pressure on people and how they should grieve, And when David was born, I mean, I talk about this in the book, but I had a moment of like, maybe he'll just die and we can just forget this whole thing ever happened. I mean, that pain is real. And I would guess a lot of other people have felt that way when they've had a child with a severe disability.
Yeah.
And then in my next breath, like, please, dear God, don't let him die.
That's the worst thing that could happen to me.
Yeah. And all those mix of emotions. I mean, pain is, the loss you mentioned is so real. We really did grieve the loss of the baby that we thought we were going to have. And even though it's like that baby never existed, there's a real loss there.
Right.
I saw someone recently post in an Instagram post. It was a picture of her beautiful daughter who had Down syndrome. And she was saying, like, this year, I'm going to try and let go of the ghost of the baby who I thought I was going to have, who I sometimes see playing alongside.
Yeah.
And I'm finally ready to just let that go.
You know what's so crazy? I wonder if you guys feel this way. We as moms have so many hopes and dreams for all our kids, whether they have special needs or not.
Yes.
So like when your kid is the one who hits another kid in playgroup, you're like, crap. Like I thought my kid
was not going to be that way.
The dream is dead, like my kid is the brat.
Yeah. Or even when my kids don't handle kids with differences the way I think they should. I'm like, what the heck? We live this. We should know how to do this. Why is this happening? So, you're 100% right.
Yeah, whatever it is, I think, like, you find out your child, like we have a friend whose little girl was just diagnosed with scoliosis as she's entering her teenage years. And I was saying, that is real. Like, that pain is real because we want every good and beautiful thing for a child. So any kind of diagnosis, even a typical kid who needs glasses, or, I mean, like, these things are like, oh, I didn't want this to be so hard for them, know? And that grief is real, like grieving that perfect life we hoped for our child.
Yeah. One of the things that you said in the book was that David is this soul trapped in a broken body. And I love that because I think that so often people worry, I don't know how to interact with someone who has special needs because I don't know, do they understand me? Can they communicate with me? And I think that the answer to that from any parent of a child who has special needs is yes, they can communicate with you.
Right.
Yes, they want you to interact with them. So how would you encourage people, being kind of David's advocate and his voice of how to encourage your children, and especially as they become older? Now David's a teenager, how to interact with him, and how, I know your story is not going to just cross all boundaries of every need that a child may have or any difference that they may have, but how would you encourage people in that?
Yeah. I think when we talk with kids are amazing. Like kids are so open. So a lot of times we'll have a kid come up to us and they're like, why does he have 2 fingers on that hand? And we'll say, you know what? He was born with 2 fingers on that hand. How many fingers do you have on your hand? And they'll look and they're like, I have 5. And we're like, right. And then like the ice is broken and we're just talking about how each of us is made differently. Like you might have curly hair, or you might be short or tall, or you might have dark skin or light skin. Like we're each unique. And kids can really feel that, And often kids will ask, is he going to grow more fingers? Which I think is such a fascinating question. And I love that childlike hope and wonder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we always say, we don't think so, but God can do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
It's true.
So, and I think it's really sweet. Like, let's just ask questions, even if they're not the right questions, or even if they're, like, maybe we're even worried they're offensive. Like, let's just ask questions and engage, because we already know David has a disability, and it's not a surprise to us. We love it when people just engage honestly and when kids ask questions, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think across the board, it's such good advice to say just ask questions, because I think no matter what hard thing somebody is walking through, people worry about saying the wrong thing, and so they don't say anything. And whether it's like you're grieving a miscarriage or a parent or a spouse or just a hard situation has come up, you choose not to say anything because you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
And that's so isolating to the person who already feels isolated and already.
Well, and we know that at the core of every one of us, our desire is to be known and to be loved and to be accepted. And that doesn't change regardless of what we're walking through. That core desire is always there. And so allowing people to be known is often asking questions, but also giving room for them to say, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just existing with them.
Yes. Right. Like, I love that. And I love, like, just sit next to me or just stand next to me, because I don't want to be alone. You don't have to say any of the right things. And sometimes when someone's really hurting and I don't know what to say, I'll just say, I just want to bear witness to your pain. Like, just to say it out loud. Like, I see that you're in pain. And it's often people will start crying because it's like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to have someone just acknowledge,
Absolutely. I think, too, we've now, there's so many good things about the internet, and there's some really hard things. And I think there are so many articles that go around that say, like, 10 things not to say to an adoptive mom, 10 things not to say to a parent who has a chronically ill child. And so then I think it's created this culture where we're like, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Everyone's so scared.
Yeah, nothing says what to say, because, that varies. But it's like, well, oh no, I've said this to someone before. I'm the worst. I'm just not going to go there anymore.
Right. Yeah. I think, if we have like one phrase we can hold on to, like something like, I noticed your son and I just wanted to say hi. Like, okay, so, or if your child says like, why does that kid look so funny? Then you just turn to the parents and you say like, hi, we noticed your son and we just wanted to say hi. So that, because it's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. We don't want to like shush our kids or say, like, I don't know how to answer all their questions, but something to hold on to, like, so that we
just
can.
a script.
Yes,
One
this is
word,
where
yeah.
to get to the next place where we're actually connecting, and it gets a lot easier once we're over that initial kind of engaging.
Mhm.
Yeah. Speaking of engaging, one of the things we wanted to ask you about, we are encouraging people all the time to live openly with their homes and to have people in. And one of the things we were wondering was throughout this stage of since David was born, and it's been different, I'm sure, along the way, and then you had this business that took off and all of those things. Is it easier for you to have people come to you, or for someone to have you and say, like, our home is open to you, please come? What is the thing that has been more doable for you as a
Yeah.
mom and for your family?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these are such fun questions. I think it's probably easiest for us to host, but we love it when friends will say, like, hey, we want to have you guys over. How would that work with David? Like, can we make him food, or should we put anything away? And we always joke, like, put your glass unicorn collection away. You might break it. But it's generally easier at home. And now he's 16, so sometimes we'll plan things without him now too, just because he's gotten a little trickier as he's gotten older. But I think the biggest thing is when people just engage and ask. Like when my husband started, he was a pastor for years before he ran our businesses. And when he got a job at a new church here in San Luis Obispo, the children's director took me out for lunch and she said, we want to know how to love David well. And I burst into tears because I was like, wow, that is such a beautiful question. And sometimes it is easier, like, oh, I just want to get out of the house and I don't want to have to clean or cook. So yeah, we'll come over, especially if people are like, you know what, he can go anywhere, he can touch anything, we don't care.
Yes.
We had dinner at a friend's house a couple weeks ago, and he like walked off toward the back of the house, and we went to find him, and he had crawled into one of the kids' beds. And they were like, oh, that's so awesome. And they were like tucking him in, like, you have a good sleep, David. And we were joking, like,
he
we'll
was
pick him up
done with
tomorrow.
all of y'all. Yeah, he
like,
said.
I'm over it. I'm going to bed.
That is hysterical.
That's
so great.
But to have friends whose beds are open.
Yeah, like they were even their daughter Lily was like, no, it's fine. I think it's so cute. Like she was totally down with it. And then also knowing your family, like if you're a family like, gosh, I don't know if we can handle having a kid in who's going to touch everything and climb in our beds, then saying like, hey, we really want to get together with you guys. Like, what could we do that would work with David? Like we could bring dinner to you, or we could meet at a park or a restaurant. Like people can have whatever their perspectives are, like we have all kinds of friends. So
yeah, this is kind of changing gears a little bit, but something I thought about whenever you were talking is with your younger son, how do you think we can all love siblings well? Because I think a lot of times that the siblings just end up not included.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how we think the special needs child is going to be marginalized, so they end up getting more attention, not just from the parents, but from friends as well. And then it's the typical kids who end up being forgotten sometimes. I think often, actually. I think that when David was born, we're like, let's try to just have David be a part of our family and not the center of our family. And that's hard. I mean, like if he's having surgery, everything's going to revolve around it. And there's just no other way.
Right.
And we've told Matthias, like, you have had to wait. You've had to be quiet. You've missed things because, your brother had therapy or he had surgery. I think acknowledging it is really important, and apologizing. Like there's some real suffering there for the siblings. And then where we can, we really try to prioritize. Like, this is important because Matthias's feelings and thoughts matter just as much as David's needs and feelings and thoughts. And so really trying to make time for him and do special things for him. And it, honestly, I look back, I'm like, it's super imperfect. His life has absolutely been affected by having a brother with special needs. And it's been unavoidable. But hopefully he's felt seen and loved and cherished in special ways too.
Yeah. I know. I think it's a part of like people get kind of shocked, and so then, like you said, they kind of overcompensate sometimes with kids,
Mhm.
especially like with Maisie. She has a physical difference, and so
Mhm.
it's the first thing people see about her. It's like the last thing we notice at this point, but we have to remember that other people, that's the first thing they see.
Yeah.
And so people remember her at school. When they walk in and out of school, it's, hey, Maisie, hey, Maisie. And our
Mhm.
kindergartner, Aniston, the other day got in the car and she said, no one likes me.
Aw.
I said, that's not true. And she said, whenever we leave, everybody says bye to Maisie and no one knows who I am.
Yeah.
And so I think across the board, that happens to siblings a lot
Yeah.
of times.
Yeah, I think in those situations saying like, how does that feel? You know, do you sometimes feel forgotten or overlooked? And just acknowledging it. We were out to lunch. I took Matthias out to lunch, just the two of us. I don't know, it was probably a year ago or something. And he said, I feel like there are times that I just get forgotten because you're so busy with David. And I wanted to say all the ways that I like make sure he gets seen and all the special things I do. And I was like, I just need to say you're right. Like, it's true. And there's times I'm so emotionally and physically tired and exhausted, and I can't control David, but Matthias gets angry, and I'm like, I just want to rage. Like,
yes.
I had nothing left. Like, I
Yeah.
can't change David, but I can try to control you.
Mhm.
And that's so unfair, you know, that my frustration gets focused on him or taken out on him because he's the typical kid. And so in those times, I just try to apologize, but and not excuse it or not explain it away because there's a real reason it's happening, but that doesn't mean he deserves it.
Right.
Right.
And I will say, we have 5 kids, and all of them are typical, for the most part. But I think that that's something that we all as mothers battle, because there are different times that different kids require more of us. And coming from having a bigger family, there are times that I feel so divided, and then all of a sudden I realize this kid is being forgotten. I haven't noticed. I haven't been giving them any attention because these two have been requiring all of my attention. And so I think that we just repent well. I think that that is important as mothers, as parents, and as people, that we repent well and that we acknowledge that you're feeling that way and those feelings are valid.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm not going to do this perfectly, but I think that it also sets a standard for them of almost taking a weight off of they don't have to be perfect either.
Yes. That's beautiful.
I do think that that's just an across the board something that we can all take away from this conversation is that, you know, we all are going to mess up, you know, and our kids are going to mess up and we're not going to get it right. But at the end of the day, like, if we can just do our best to love one another and to be open and honest and repent whenever we do really royally screw up.
Right. Well, it's like we said earlier, we're all more alike than different.
Yes.
All our families are more alike than different.
Yeah.
So true. I think too that acknowledging and apologizing, really, the healing that can take place for our children in that is crazy, as opposed to explaining it and trying to excuse it, which just actually deepens the wound, you know? And even if as a mom, I think like, that's baloney, you are so cherished and loved, you know, it's like, well, whatever they're feeling is real. Like those feelings are real for them.
Right.
And if we can just say like, I hear what you're saying and that sounds really hard. And I'm sure I have hurt you, you know, like there's nothing lost there and everything gained.
Right. Yeah. We talk a lot about how people just want to be known and they want to be heard. And so I feel like if anywhere, my kids need to be known at home and known by me and heard by me. And so I'm glad that you brought that up for sure. Yeah. Thank you for talking about all of that for sure.
It's so good.
So at the end of our show, we always do what's called Love It or Leave It.
Okay.
And we're changing, so we're putting you on the spot because you are our first person. We just changed this like 10 minutes before we got on the call with
Let's
you.
do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so our new format for Love It or Leave It is going to be tell us something that you're loving right now and then something that you're ready to just leave. Ready to move past.
I am loving having hot drinks. This is so, can it be like totally
Absolutely, yes.
I'm loving having hot drinks after dinner. Like, a decaf or a hot tea. It feels super British, which is funny.
Yes.
My husband's family's British, so I'm like, look at us, we're turning into Brits. But it feels, well, it's not high calorie, and then it's also like really comforting in the evening. So I'm really loving that.
So
Yeah.
we should do that instead of the warm cookies that we've been
I know,
eating
like,
after dinner.
what I really want is chocolate and cookies and sugar. But trying to soak up an apple cinnamon hot tea and let it be as fulfilling.
Yes.
Okay, leaving it. I really struggle with like feeling like if I step into the spotlight, I'm taking something from someone else. And with the book coming out, it's a lot of me needing to like step forward and post and talk about it. And so I'm really trying to leave that behind. Like I am allowed to talk about me and be excited and do selfies and all this stuff that feels like it's not right or it's taking from someone else, or just kind of those deeply ingrained lies of like, I'm not as important as somebody else. So leaving those lies behind.
That's what I was going to say. Those are lies. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let that go. And the more that you are able to get that word out, the more people are going to hear your encouraging and beautiful words, and their lives are going to be impacted by it. So
Thank you.
Keep posting,
keep
Lisa.
doing it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be right here cheering you on.
Sure.
Thank you.
Lisa, will you tell our listeners where they can find you on the internet and where they can get their copy of Brave Love?
Absolutely. I'm at lisaleonard.com, LisaLeonard. On Instagram, I'm Lisa Leonard. And then Brave Love, the book, is available at Amazon. We have a really beautiful box set at Barnes & Noble that has a necklace included, which is super fun. Limited quantities there. And then it'll be at Target, Costco. I mean, it's going to be everywhere. But if they pre-order, we have a free keychain, like a yellow heart keychain that is adorable.
It's so cute.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So so I definitely say pre-order because it really helps the author too, like with retailers knowing how much to order and getting the numbers up. So pre-orders are awesome, and we're offering a free keychain if they do. So order Brave Love.
Yay! It's so good. Okay, and how long do people have? Do they have until the 28th to do the pre-order and get the keychain?
Right, till the 28th. Yep.
Okay. And then everybody leave a review. A nice
Yes.
review.
Yeah, leave a good review.
Only if you're going to leave a good one. If you're going to leave a bad one, write that and throw it away.
Throw it away.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yes,
So good.
it's been so great to talk to you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
You guys too. Thanks for having me.
We are so grateful that you guys joined us for our conversation with Lisa today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
If you're new around here, you can find us online at our website, nestledpodcast.com. We're also over on Instagram and Facebook at Nestled Podcasts.
Thank you guys so much for peeking in our nest.
We hope you come back next week. As always, the door will be open.